Hello friends, neighbors, John Jewish neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook and welcome to the end of 2023. I think it's been a pretty good year. It's been bumpy here and there, that's for sure. And I think we're still learning how to be together and a lot of healing to happen yet among us. But I think good friends and if done carefully, good whiskey, I think can help with that healing. So this episode is going to be the best whiskey for my palate that I've had a whole bottle of, or at least half a bottle of. So I've come back to it, I've tasted in different settings, and I'm like, yeah, this is some good whiskey. I've got a few categories, maybe about 8 of them, and it's not always critically the best whiskey. In fact, often it's not, and it's not the best whiskey in the world, because this is, I have to keep it tight. It's whiskey I've reviewed on the channel this year. I have a bottle or half a bottle, enough to just really come back. Can't just be those beautiful samples. And then I'll share with you the best. And then this is my pick for the year. We'll get there at the end, of course. So pour something you enjoy. Hopefully you've got a nice place to sit and relax. And let's talk some whiskey. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. Let's get right into some good whiskey. I think I'm going to start with Scotch. And the reason why I had to modify whole bottle, half a bottle, is I've bent the rules this year. So my first is going to be my Scotch of the year is an older one. This is a Ben Romick 10-year 100 proof. And it was given to me by James. He's a wonderful friend. And he comes by every few months and gives me half bottles or 3/4 full bottles and says, John, just enjoy. And this Ben Romick 10 is fantastic. I don't think it's all sherry, but there's a ton of sherry chewing around in here. It's got nice backbone, 57%, and it coats well, it drinks well. I like this Scotch a lot. I think it's not made anymore, which makes it a crime. But it was new to me this year, and I've certainly been enjoying this. Thank you, James. Then I'm going to go over to a peated Scotch in a similar vein. This is not the Love James show, but I do appreciate James. But this Lefroy Cadaris, I've had this Cadaris before, but I've never had a bottle in the house, and I've gone through this now. And really, at Christmas time, the spicing, the high sweetness of the PX, with surprisingly sweet malt. Lefroy can get pretty sweet for me. And actually, this is like sweet pear, light, and then, Band-Aid peat and sherry, like huge sherry, all in a 58.9%. You can see 57, 50, maybe it was the year of big whiskey. But while this is just an awesome Scotch, I think it would appeal to lots of folk. This only if you're a peat person, like a bruiser. This is Isle of Peat. It'll kick you around, but so much fun and so much flavor. Then I'm going to go to something really light and fun and affordable, and that's my best blended Scotch of the year. And that's the Fool. Josh from the Heathens bought it for me, and I love it. I think it's also, it's also 57%. Honestly, I don't just drink big scotches like this, but this Fool it's a blended Scotch. That's why it's my best blended Scotch of the year. It's grain, I think mostly grain, 80% grain, 20% malt. It's only 8 years old, says that all on the back, and it's aged on hogshead. So it doesn't have the color of Cardias, like not even close. But it has another significant sherry influence. That's another theme for me for 2023. So all of these so far have had sherry. We've got PX here. I don't know what the sherry is on the 100 proof. And then this is all in hogsheads as well. But this is a great blend. You can get the graininess, you can get the sweetness, and it's just a lot of fun. Honestly, that's just a great blended malt. All right, let's get off Scotch for a moment and let's run into bourbon. Let's talk, well, you know what? This one, I've gone through 2 Old Forester 1910s of this size this year. So I feel like that qualifies that I have a bottle, and I found a 1910. Now, this has been in everybody's market except mine. This is the first year that I've been able to buy 1910 Old Forester. And what I like about 1910 is it is a double barrel product, and I think it's a little bit lighter finally. Yep, 46.5. We finally come down in percent. But I find Old Forester 1910 specifically just brings in that toast, that second barreling brings in some really nice toasted oak notes. I find Old Forester a little bit dry as far as bourbons go, not a lot of fruit, and that's okay. I like that profile, but this adds some sweet nuts, some sweet almond, almost that toasted oak really makes this stand out for me. So that is a great bourbon. Then if I'm picking my cask strength bourbon of the year, absolutely no surprise for any of you that watch me for more than 5 minutes. If you've seen me review a bourbon, you know I'm picking Booker's. I don't know. I know people are falling in love with Booker's, but this Charlie's Batch, this is 2301. And I have to say, Charlie's Batch for me is one of the best Booker's I've had in years. Like I love them all. I'm a Booker's fan. But this particular one, I'm glad I can still find it on the shelf, even at a decent enough price. Of course, it has some of that peanut. Of course, it's got some of that bruising oak. But this is a tasty, tasty Booker's. And I think if you like Booker's at all, this Charlie's Batch, if it's in your shelf, like I said, it's in Alberta. It's in several liquor stores. I would say it's worth hunting down. So we've done some scotches. We've done bourbons, some double oaked and a big bruiser. Let's go to a rye. Now, earlier, I've talked to you about all of these. I've reviewed all of these. If you want to hear more of my in-depth thoughts, you got to go check out the channel and see it. This is Milam and Green rye finished in port. And I know it's sourced. I'm okay with that. Everything in that bottle is natural. The color is wicked. And they use their own wine barrels, I believe. Shoot, no, that's what I thought. It's 47%. And I know the blender is really known for wine and for blending. Of course, they source this rye. But this Milam and Green rye just captured my heart. And I thought for a little while that maybe this Lot 40, again, if you know me, I'm Canadian. I love Lot 40. But this just didn't, I don't know if it was the French oak. It must have been the French oak, but something about the spicing in that didn't play the way I wanted to, whereas this is all rich fig and spicy rye, but it just holds together, almost buttery. This is just a phenomenal rye. Okay, now Canadian of the Year was a tough one for me. It really was because I've had a lot of entrants, unique, interesting Canadian. I almost picked this Two Brewers. This is a great single malt Canadian. And it is very, very tasty. This is 35. I definitely recommend this if you're looking for just a excellent quality Canadian single malt, but it didn't just capture what I'm looking for. And I think the flavor that I'm looking for, aside from these bourbons, is something with a little sherry or sweetness on it. I don't know what is happening to my palate. We have to fix me in 2024. But this Pike Creek 22-year-old, I went back, as I do prepping for this video, and I check out what Canadians did I actually review and talk about. Not do I have, what did I talk about? And this 22-year-old, you know, is actually really, really good. There's even hints of mocha and chocolate in there, which is really nice. The PX, again, just like the PX, could be the year for PX, though I don't think this is a PX sherry. But, you know, it actually worked really, really well with that Pike Creek. It just had just a few extra chocolates and whatnot. So this Pike Creek 22 stood out this year for me as just a great Canadian whiskey. What do I have left? I've got, usually before Canadian, I usually go Scotch and then Irish, and I didn't, and I should have. So I'm going to pull up an Irish here. This is sourced. It's Killowen 5-year-old. It's their single malt. It's the Rum Raisin series. And this is my second bottle of this one. And this one's not opened yet, and I look forward to cracking it. This one is just luscious. It's just absolutely rum and raisin. It's sweet fruits from rum and thick fig raisin. It's almost a bit like rum raisin ice cream, which some like, and I am one of those somes. But I know others really don't. But there's something really chewy and lovely about this. And it's only 5 years old, but it's non-chill filtered, so it's got lots of mouthfeel, lots of good flavor, and that will hold the Irish for me. So, you know, I started here in Scotch. We've got just Scotch overall, and then peat, and then blended malt, and then I've got a double oak bourbon, Cask bourbon, beautiful rye. Nice Canadian and good age on it, 22, crazy value for those looking at an older product. And I'm going to add this. I think every YouTube channel this year reviewed Indri. Indri is a 3-cask single malt product that came out of India this year and hit every single YouTube channel on the planet. Good for them. Great marketing. And for me, for an international, that's what the spot is. I didn't get enough Japanese whiskey. I didn't get enough. So there's not a lot of bottles, but not to knock Indri. I actually think Indri is just a fantastic, enjoyable, again, sherried single malt. So that pretty much is the lineup. I'm not sure, I should have checked my field of view, what you can see, what you can't see. But to me, every whiskey up here is unique. But aside from these bourbons, there's a theme up here. Every whiskey up here, aside from these bourbons, have been finished in some kind of sherry cask. I might have a problem, and we might have to fix that in 2024. I have sipped some samples of some gorgeous only ex-bourbon. And these bourbons are their new oak, you know, that at least keeps me out of sherry land. But it's surprising how much my palate has been influenced this year by sherry casking, if done well. If too sulfury or too heavy or too leathery or too musky, they can take me the other way. But this up here, I suggest every one of these. Now, none of these, except maybe, I don't know, a couple of them hit 4.5 stars. But very few up here hit 4.5 stars. Oh, right. Which one is my overall favorite? Well, before I do, I want to give a nod to my most unique whiskey this year, and that's this one from Odd Society. Odd Society, I had a lovely experience meeting Gordon. He's out in Vancouver and doing some really creative things with single malt. And it's craft BC distillery, which means all the malt that was distilled and aged, everything is BC, grown, aged in, that kind of thing. It's almost like Scotch in Scotland. To be a craft distiller in BC, it's all BC. But they wanted some smoke. Well, no one's peating malt in BC. This has some smoked Roch malt from Germany, but they put it in a gin basket. And when they distill the BC spirit through it, it picks up some of that smoke flavor, and it is unique. That is a really cool bottle. So that's my unique whiskey of the year. Okay, that's lots and lots of bottles, lots of conversation. Of these, which one was my favorite of the year? Oh, love me some Lefroy Cardias. And I said two little bottles of this have gone down, and I talked too much about Booker's. But in the end, actually right in front of me, what's in my glass is this beautiful rye. This Milliman Green rye captured my heart and my taste buds. This is my second bottle, and I just really appreciate it. That it's got good spice, good hug, but the port is balanced. It didn't overwhelm. It adds this layer of rich, dark fruit to it. That just, I think, really goes well with a good rye. So that's my whiskey this year that's in this glass. Thank you for joining me. 2023, I suggest, was a good year. There are some bumps along the way, and I'm hoping 2024 can just be even more good together, sharing, talking, and building each other up, because we've got to get back to just learning how to be in society and give grace to another person and another person's experience. I truly don't know what you're going through, but I hope that this light conversation and our sharing can help lift you up. All the best in 2024. Cheers.